Now, it's been a week since Israel declared war on Hamas after an unprecedented ground, air and sea assault by the Hamas militants over the weekend. The death toll continues to mount on both the sides of the war. Over 1,300 Israelis and over 1,500 Palestinians have lost their lives so far. The humanitarian crisis is mounting too, and countries have now swung into diplomatic action to avoid a spillover. In the latest update, Israel's military chief has said that now is the time for war. The United Nations said that Israel's military informed it late on Thursday that 1.1 million Palestinians in Gaza should relocate to the enclave south within the next 24 hours. That's the time that has been given to the Gazans. The Palestinians fear that it could be a precursor to a planned Israeli ground offensive following a deadly Hamas militant attack. Now, the UN has urged Israel to call off Gaza evacuation order, while U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Jordan after his Israel visit on Thursday. He will meet with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and also Jordan's King Abdullah in Amman. Now, his visit aims to engage regional partners on efforts to help prevent the conflict from spreading. He's also expected to visit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE and Egypt. And during his Israel visit, Blinken met Prime Minister Netanyahu. He vowed off a robust support for Israel, as he said that the country will never fight alone, as US will always be on its side. Now, the Israeli Prime Minister showed Blinken the horrific images of infant victims who were murdered and burnt by the Hamas militant group. Those images were shared by Netanyahu on social media platform X, and WION has consciously decided not to show those pictures. Now, as the West ramps up its diplomatic efforts in the region, Iran has now called on Islamic and Arab countries to form a united front against Israel. Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi accused Israel of a genocide. Tehran has also reportedly offered to host an emergency meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister has warned that if Israel's bombing of Gaza continues, the war may open on other fronts, which is seen as an apparent reference to the Lebanese group Hezbollah. Israeli parliament has approved Netanyahu's emergency unity government in a 66-4 vote. The opposition members have also joined this government to take on Hamas. The formation of the new government underlines the suspension of normal political rules during one of the most serious crises in Israel's history. Former Prime Minister Yair Lapid, who is the leader of the largest opposition party in Israel in the parliament, has refused to join the government as of now. And the Human Rights Watch accuses Israel of using white phosphorus munitions in its military operations in Gaza and Lebanon as well. Now, the use of such weapons puts civilians at a risk of serious and long-term injury. Israel continues to pound Gaza Strip with airstrikes. The country has tightened its siege of Gaza, which saw another night without electricity. Israel has blocked supply of fuel as well as food to Gaza. The Red Cross says that Gaza hospitals risk turning into morgues. Israel says that the siege will remain in place until Hamas releases some of the 10 hostages taken after Saturday assault. The Israeli army has said that it has bombed the Gaza Strip with approximately 6,000 bombs containing 4,000 tons of explosives since Saturday. That is when the airstrikes began. Meanwhile, Israel's kibbutz Holot has suffered severe damages as it was attacked by the Hamas militants over the weekend. And amid the raging war, many countries have also ramped up efforts to rescue their citizens. India's first charter flight under Operation Ajay, carrying 212 citizens from war-torn Israel, landed in New Delhi this morning. Meanwhile, more than 200 Nepali nationals who were evacuated from Israel also returned home today, while a flight with 377 French nationals evacuated from Israel landed in Paris. And for more on this, joining us live from Dubai, we have Mr. Mohammed Baharoon, who is the Director General of the Dubai Public Policy Research Center. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right, Mr. Baroon, the United States has clearly said that the U.S. has Israel's back, and extending his Israel trip, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is also visiting Arab nations in the bid to keep the conflict from spreading. How optimistic are you, Mr. Baroon, of a negotiation taking place, as Iran has also urged Islamic Arab nations to unite against Israel?
I think the events that we're seeing unfolding are very, very upsetting, and the amount of violence we have seen is heart-wrenching. But it's also dangerous because it is positioning us in a very divided situation,
right,
where people have to take sides on one side or another. This is becoming as dividing as the war in Ukraine. And I don't think we need more division in the world on who's right and who's wrong. I think the amount of diplomatic efforts being done right now is to create as much as of a unified position on how to address the situation. The U.S. presence is part of its commitment to peace and security in the region, and I hope that it will stay at that, helping not to spread the war beyond what it is, as horrible as it is right now, but beyond the current borders is also a priority. But we will also have to be very careful of how that violence can raise.
Absolutely, Mr. Baroon. The countries have taken positions in the ongoing Israel-Hamas war, and UAE president also held a phone call with Egypt president. How do you assess Dubai's role in the mediation talks?
Well, the UAE has one priority at this point, is to stop the violence, because it realizes that this spiraling violence could lead to places that no one wants to be in this region. We have gone a long way of bringing back what used to be, an existential conflict between two religions, back to become a sort of a political conflict that can be resolved over a table. Now it is threatened to go back, and it's not going back to be an Arab, Israeli conflict. It's now going back to become an Islamic Jewish conflict, which is something we don't want to see happening.
Well, Mr. Baroon, you also have your expertise on public policy and international relations, and it is day 7 of the war in Israel. How do you assess the Israel-Hamas war changing the complexion of West Asia, and in what ways?
At this point, the division that is happening is what is going to be, this polarization is going to be the most, consequential impact. When countries, let's say like India, who has always been a sort of an unaligned country, is now will have to take a position on whether it's with Israel or with the Palestinians. This is the type of thing that would stop the projects like the India, Middle East, and Europe Economic Corridor. These are projects that were supposed to foster in more cooperation between countries. Now we're going to have to look again into what does that mean to all of these connectivity projects that we've been, imagining. But I think the calamity of human loss is the thing that would mark us in history. And unfortunately, that type of extreme violence stays with people. It will stays with them. It will affect their future decisions. There are, a new generation of Palestinians and Israelis are going to grow up based on those calamitous situations, thinking of each other as enemies, thinking of ways of getting back to each other. This will perpetuate this type of conflict, and this is exactly what we're trying to stop.